Good morning, America. I'm your anchor for today, Joey McCrae III, and I'm here with my co-anchor, Dwight McFarland IV. Today's very special edition of our newscast will be evaluating some of the new controversial topics sweeping across the country. Take it away, Dwight.
Tensions between the North and the South are intensifying between the country and Congress, with the rise of popular sovereignty and the issue of slavery has been taken out of the political arena, but instead spilled into the lives of everyday people. To inform everyone of these issues, we have a series of interviews lined up, live action footage from Kansas, and a special talk show tonight. But before we dive into all of this, we need to talk about the background of these issues.
Yes, Dwight. The most significant issue that almost everything has to do with right now is slavery. Popular sovereignty is the idea that people should have the direct right to vote on whether their state should be allowed to have slaves or not. Stephen Douglas is a big supporter of this and is using it to try and win Southern support to build the Transcontinental Railroad through the Midwest of the country.
We can't forget that Douglas has had some opposition, though, Joey, that being the Free Soil Party. These people believe that blacks, both free and slave, should be kept out of the territory both obtained from west of the Louisiana Purchase. People a part of the Free Soil Party or believers in its ideology support the Missouri Compromise strongly and pose the strongest opposition to Douglas's plan.
Let's go live. Stephen Douglas here to show his views on the issue.
Thanks for joining us, Stephen. Why don't you introduce yourself for those who don't know you?
Thank you, Dwight. My name is Stephen Arnold Douglas, and I'm currently the Senator of Illinois.
Well, Mr. Douglas, there are a lot of concerned people who think that your new plan could disrupt the remaining peace between the North and the South. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I know that peace between the North and the South is fragile right now, but the Transcontinental Railroad is something that the country needs that will benefit both North and South because it will promote Western expansion across the country.
But what's the need for your proposed bill to divide the Kansas territory into two separate states, Nebraska and Kansas?
Well, Dwight, with the Democrats controlling both the White House and Congress, I need to win Southern support somehow. So I had to make a choice for the benefit of the country. I chose to divide these territories and put popular sovereignty into effect following Cass's ideas. It is only the fair way to decide if the state should have a slave or non-slave. It follows closest to the constitutional ideals.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas, for clarifying. Back to you, Joey.
Well, that was very insightful. For the country's sake, let's hope this doesn't cause too many issues.
Well, Joey, we still have one more interview from the other perspective of this argument. Sammy P. Chase is with us today to represent the Free Soil Party and inform us why Mr. Douglas's proposals can destroy the peace.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Chase.
Pleasure to be here, Joey. It's right. People know the destruction these new plans will have on our country.
All right, jumping into it, I see. Please elaborate further on what you mean.
Gladly, Joey. At a quick glance, this new proposal doesn't seem like it could be in any way harmful to the country, but we need to analyze it further. Douglas is an imbecile, and he is going to cause a war between our country. His new plan will allow the people to choose if Nebraska and Kansas become slave states, and this will most certainly cause riot and outbursts of violence between the most radical of each side. Furthermore, if any of these territories become slave states, it will be the destruction of the Missouri Compromise.
But you'd have to assume that these territories would most likely be free because they are above the 36th parallel, created by the Missouri Compromise.
Once again, at first glance, yes, it would appear that way, but Southerners would surely take the opportunity to gain another slave state, and with Missouri so close, slave owners would take the opportunity to expand their territory to the open land.
Thank you, Mr. Chase, for the insightful analysis of this predicament.
Well, you've heard both sides of the debate, and things are already seeming to intensify in Kansas. We are getting reports of violent outbreaks across the territory. Let's go live to what people are starting to call Bloody Kansas.
What the hell you're talking about?
Just as we thought things couldn't intensify, the footage from the May 22nd session of Congress where Congressman Summers was paralyzed by Representative Brooks in retaliation to his abolitionist speech given 2 days prior.
Let's take a look. Just fair warning, though, the following footage may be offensive and graphic. Viewer discretion is advised.
You're no good abolitionist hippie, Summer. How dare you talk about South Carolina in such a negative connotation? Do you have respect for no one in the South?
I have no respect for anyone who enslaved another human being, Brooks. Your state is despicable, just like all the other southern slave states.
Your state is carpeted with slavery, and I cannot see another state fall into the adherent ways of slavery.
You badmouth South Carolina because of the 2-century-old tradition and culture so many other southern states have adopted. We will not let another state fall to the north and become free. Slavery is essential to the southern economy, and it cannot be abolished.
Slaveocracy has been a corrupted way for the South to benefit the harshness of others for too long, and it's time to change what has come about. You reap the benefits of other people's hard works and suppress the equality of an entire race. South Carolina is a disgrace to the Union. It's a state that hymns of oppression. I'd be founding myself in the Union if I were not letting another state fall to these horrendous ways.
South Carolina, just like all the other southern states in the Union, is a glorious part of this country, and the South, as a whole, is the only thing prestigious about this country. Northerners work gruesome hours in factories where conditions are worse than that on most plantations. If anything, factory workers are the real slaves. They're dictated by a clock, work for a period, and earn a set wage.
You sort of disgust me. You take pride in anything. You view hard work as disregarding to your reputation. Northerners are filled with pride in their accomplishments, unlike South Carolina, a state with so much promise and potential. Yet, when we look at their accomplishments, it's hard to find anything at all.
You've libeled my state and slandered my white-haired old relative, Senator Butler, and I've come to punish you for it.
An action-packed day here at US News Daily. Perhaps the most frightening part of that video wasn't even the caning. No, it was the fact that the North could not even rally enough votes to expel Brooks from his position of power. All Brooks left with was merely a $300 fine, although he did resign from his position.
Yes, but it doesn't end there. When Brooks returned home to South Carolina, they commended him for his actions and even held events in his honor. They even sent him a replacement cane for the one he broke atop Sumner's head.
All of this, plus we have received word that Brooks is being placed up for re-election by South Carolina. This has seemed to spark more of an outrage from the North than the caning itself. Things are looking dreadful for the entirety of the country. Stay tuned daily for more updates on the situation at hand.
This is US Daily News, signing off. Good night, America.